This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, fueling our podcast and giving us the boost behind this mic. Thank you for your support. Coming up in the podcast, the model looks similar to the previous Terminator that would have come at her in the first movie, right? And so my lady start to panic. I mean, she lost it. She was not. She started to scramble, you know. And then our son have to come in and say, "Mom, Mom, Mom." I try to snap her out of it, right? And convince her, say, it's a different Terminator. This okay, it's not the same one. It's a different one. This, the one in there for protect me and thing.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilization, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captured audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on CodeFlix.
Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to CodeFlix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we'll be looking at the 1991 movie Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Imagine discovering one of the greatest sci-fi fantasies of all time by jumping straight into its sequel. That was me with Terminator 2: Judgment Day. This was my very first introduction to the Terminator saga, and honestly, it completely pulled me in. By the time the third movie came out, I was already a full-on fan, ready to see where the story would go. In T2, we find John Connor's mom, Sarah, locked away in a mental institution for blowing up a computer factory. Then comes a new Terminator, faster, deadlier, and even more advanced, sent to eliminate John before he can lead the resistance. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger is back as the T-800, this time reprogrammed by the resistance to protect John. The clash between these two unstoppable machines raises the stakes sky high and delivers some of the most iconic action sequences in cinema history. This film is the perfect blend of sci-fi, action, and heart, and it was the movie that made me dive headfirst into the entire Terminator franchise.
Terminator 2: Judgment Day is a 1991 American science fiction action film directed by James Cameron, who co-wrote the script with William Wisher. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Robert Patrick, it is the sequel to The Terminator, 1984, and is the second installment in the Terminator franchise. In the film, the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet sends a Terminator, a highly advanced killing machine, back in time to 1995 to kill the future leader of the human resistance John Connor when he is a child. The resistance sends back a less advanced, reprogrammed Terminator to protect Connor and ensure the future of humanity. The Terminator was considered a significant success, enhancing Schwarzenegger's and Cameron's careers, but work on a sequel stalled because of animosity between the pair and Hemdale Film Corporation, which partially owned the film's rights. In 1990, Schwarzenegger and Cameron persuaded Carolco Pictures to purchase the rights from the Terminator producer Gale and Hurd and Hemdale, which was financially struggling. A release date was set for the following year, leaving Cameron and Wisher 7 weeks to write the script. Principal photography lasted from October 1990 to March 1991, taking place in and around Los Angeles on an estimated $94 to $102 million budget, making it the most expensive film made at the time. The advanced visual effects by Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, which include the first use of a computer-generated main character in a blockbuster film, resulted in a schedule overrun. Theatrical prints were not delivered to theaters until the night before the picture's release on July 3, 1991. Terminator 2 was a critical and commercial success, grossing $519 to $520.9 million at the box office to become the highest-grossing film of 1991 worldwide and the third highest-grossing film of its time. The film won several accolades, including Saturn, BAFTA, and Academy Awards. Terminator 2 merchandise includes video games, comic books, novels, and T2-3D, Battle Across Time, a live-action attraction. Terminator 2 is considered one of the best science fiction, action, and sequel films ever made. It is also seen as a major influence on visual effects in films, helping usher in the transition from practical effects to reliance on computer-generated imagery. The United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2023. Although Cameron intended for Terminator 2 to be the end of the franchise, it was followed by a series of sequels, including Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, 2003, Terminator Salvation, 2009, Terminator Genisys, 2015, and Terminator, Dark Fate, 2019, as well as a 2008 television series. In 2029, Earth has been ravaged by the war between the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet and the human resistance. Skynet sends the T-1000, an advanced, shape-shifting prototype Terminator made of virtually indestructible liquid metal, back in time to kill Resistance leader John Connor when he is a child. To protect John, the Resistance sends back a reprogrammed T-800 Terminator, a less advanced metal endoskeleton covered in living tissue. In 1995 Los Angeles, John's mother Sarah is incarcerated in Pescadero State Hospital for her violent efforts to prevent Judgment Day, the prophesied events of August 29, 1997, when Skynet will gain sentience and, in response to its creator's attempts to deactivate it, incite a nuclear holocaust. John, living with foster parents, also considers Sarah delusional and resents her efforts to prepare him for his future role. The T-1000 locates John in a shopping mall, but the T-800 intervenes, coming to John's aid and enabling his escape. John calls to warn his foster parents, but the T-800 deduces that the T-1000 has already killed them. Realizing the T-800 is programmed to obey him, John forbids it to kill people and orders it to help him rescue Sarah from the T-1000. The T-800 and John intercept Sarah as she attempts to escape. Initially horrified that the T-800 resembles the Terminator sent to kill her in 1984B, she joins them and escapes the pursuing T-1000. Sarah uses the T-800's knowledge of the future to learn that a revolutionary microprocessor, being developed by Cyberdyne engineer Miles Dyson, will be crucial to Skynet's creation. Over the course of their journey, Sarah sees the T-800 serving as a friend and father figure to John, who teaches it catchphrases and hand signs while encouraging it to become more human-like. Sarah plans to escape to Mexico with John, but a nightmare about Judgment Day prompts her to decide to kill Dyson. She attacks him in his home, but cannot bring herself to go through with it and relents. John arrives and reconciles with Sarah while the T-800 explains to Dyson the future consequences of his work. Dyson reveals that his research has been reverse-engineered from the CPU and severed arm of the 1984 Terminator. Believing that his work must be destroyed, Dyson helps Sarah, John, and the T-800 break into Cyberdyne, retrieve the CPU and the arm, and set explosives to destroy the lab. The police assault the building and fatally shoot Dyson, but he detonates the explosives as he dies. The T-1000 pursues the surviving trio, cornering them in a steel mill. Sarah and John split up to escape while the T-1000 mangles the T-800 and briefly deactivates it by destroying its power source. The T-1000 assumes Sarah's appearance and voice to lure out John, but Sarah intervenes and, along with the reactivated T-800, pushes it into a vat of molten steel where it disintegrates. John also throws the 1984 Terminator's arm and CPU into the vat. The T-800 explains that it must also be destroyed to prevent it from serving as a foundation for Skynet. Despite John's tearful protests, the T-800 persuades him that its destruction is the only way to protect their future. Sarah, having come to respect the T-800, shakes its hand and lowers it into the vat. The T-800 gives John a thumbs up as it is incinerated. As Sarah drives down a highway with John, she reflects on her renewed hope for an unknown future, musing that if the T-800 could learn the value of life, so can humanity. Here's a detailed breakdown of the themes and symbols in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, with a concluding synthesis. Themes. 1. Fate versus free will. The core question of the film is whether the future is fixed, Judgment Day is inevitable, or whether humanity can alter its destiny. Sarah, John, and the reprogrammed T-800 embody the struggle to prove that choice, not fate, determines survival. 2. The nature of humanity. The contrast between humans and machines highlights what it means to be human. Ironically, the Terminator learns compassion, loyalty, and even sacrifice, while humans like Dyson wrestle with the morality of their technological creations. 3. The ethics of technology. Skynet represents both the brilliance and hubris of human invention. The film warns of unchecked technological progress and the moral consequences when creation is divorced from responsibility. 4. Parental bonds and protection. At its heart, the story is about family, Sarah protecting John, and the Terminator stepping into the role of surrogate father. Themes of sacrifice, nurturing, and legacy underscore the human drive to protect future generations. 5. Survival and sacrifice. The struggle against the seemingly indestructible T-1000 illustrates that survival often demands profound sacrifice. Sarah, John, and the T-800 all confront loss as the price of preserving humanity's chance at a future. Symbols. 1. The T-800. Initially designed as a killing machine, the T-800 becomes a symbol of redemption, growth, and the potential for even the most destructive forces to change. 2. The T-1000. Its liquid metal form symbolizes technological evolution beyond humanity's control, efficient, adaptable, and emotionless. It is progress without ethics. 3. The playground nuclear nightmare. Sarah's recurring vision of nuclear annihilation on a playground symbolizes innocence destroyed by human folly. It's a haunting reminder of what's at stake if humanity fails to learn from its mistakes. 4. Dyson's lab and the microchip. These symbolize the dual nature of technology, innovation with potential to help or doom humanity. The destruction of the lab represents a rejection of blind pursuit of progress without ethical foresight. 5. The molten steel furnace. The climactic setting symbolizes purification and finality. Just as steel is reforged, the destruction of the T-1000 and the Terminator's sacrifice symbolize the cleansing of destructive potential. Conclusion. Terminator 2. Judgment Day weaves together a cautionary tale about technology, morality, and human agency. Through its themes of free will, sacrifice, and the responsibilities of creation, it insists that the future is not fixed. It is shaped by human choice and values. Its potent symbols, from playground visions of nuclear fire to the Terminator's self-destruction in molten steel, reinforce the message that humanity's survival depends not on machines, but on its capacity for compassion, accountability, and change. Here's a character analysis of the key figures in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton. Role: mother of the future resistance leader, transformed since the first film. Traits: hardened, paranoid, physically and mentally disciplined, yet emotionally scarred. Arc: she evolves from a hardened survivalist, mistrustful of everything, into someone who rediscovers her humanity and compassion through her bond with John and the reprogrammed Terminator. Key aspects: her near-assassination attempt on Miles Dyson shows the dangers of obsession. Her reconciliation with John shows her enduring strength is rooted in love. Themes: motherhood as both a burden and salvation, the fine line between protector and destroyer. John Connor, Edward Furlong. Role: the young future leader of the human resistance. Traits: rebellious, resourceful, mischievous, but compassionate and idealistic. Arc: John matures from an angry foster child into a leader in training, learning responsibility and the weight of destiny. His relationship with the Terminator provides him with a surrogate father figure, teaching him discipline and trust. Key aspects: his empathy, you can't just go around killing people, humanizes the Terminator, shaping it into something closer to human. Themes: innocence guiding power, destiny forged through choice. The Terminator/T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Role: a reprogrammed cyborg sent to protect John. Traits: stoic, obedient, initially emotionless, highly adaptable. Arc: learns from John and Sarah, evolving from a cold machine into a figure of sacrifice and paternal protection. His final choice to destroy himself underscores the value of free will, even for an artificial being. Key aspects: his relationship with John redefines him, shifting from a weapon of destruction to a guardian of humanity. Themes: humanity learned through connection, technology as both destroyer and protector. T-1000, Robert Patrick. Role: advanced liquid metal assassin sent to kill John. Traits: efficient, relentless, coldly intelligent, adaptable. Arc: the T-1000 doesn't undergo emotional growth. It represents pure, evolving threat. Its lack of humanity contrasts with the T-800's growing empathy. Key aspects: its fluid, adaptable form symbolizes technological progress without morality. Themes: the dangers of unchecked advancement, relentless pursuit of destruction. Miles Dyson, Joe Morton. Role: Cyberdyne engineer whose work will lead to Skynet's creation. Traits: brilliant, ambitious, a devoted family man, initially unaware of the consequences of his work. Arc: once confronted with the future consequences of his research, Dyson sacrifices himself to prevent Judgment Day, demonstrating moral courage. Key aspects. Represents human complicity in technological catastrophe, but also humanity's ability to change course through choice. Themes. Responsibility of creators, redemption through sacrifice. Dr. Silberman, Earl Bowen. Role. Psychiatrist overseeing Sarah's incarceration. Traits. Skeptical, condescending, dismissive of Sarah's warnings. Arc. A minor but symbolic figure. His disbelief in Sarah highlights society's inability to comprehend imminent existential threats until too late. Themes. Institutional blindness. The failure of authority to grasp deeper truths. Character dynamics. Sarah, John, and the Terminator form a surrogate family, each providing what the others lack: maternal protection, paternal guidance, youthful hope. The villains, T-1000, the inevitability of Skynet, embody technological fate, while Dyson's arc reminds us that individuals can alter destiny. Together, the characters explore whether the future is predetermined or if human choice can avert catastrophe. Production and design overview of Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. James Cameron's Terminator 2, Judgment Day is regarded as one of the most groundbreaking films in science fiction cinema, both for its visual effects innovations and its production design blending gritty realism with futuristic tech. It built on the Terminator, 1984, but expanded the scale massively. Clapperboard 1. Production background. Director/co-writer, James Cameron. Producers, James Cameron, Gale and Hurd, Mario Kasser, Andrew G. Vajna. Cinematography, Adam Greenberg. Production designer, Joseph C. Nemec III. Studio/distributor, Carolco Pictures, distributed by TriStar Pictures. Budget, $100 million, the most expensive film ever made at the time. Filming locations: Los Angeles freeways, suburbs, and industrial areas, giving a grounded urban feel. Mojave Desert, Sarah Connor's prep and weapons cache. Stage work at various LA studios, Future War, Cyberdyne Labs. Building construction, 2. Set and production design. Future War sequences. Practical battlefield sets built with charred landscapes, wreckage, skulls, and burnt cars, enhanced with miniatures and practical explosions. Endoskeletons, T-800s, were a mix of Stan Winston animatronics and puppetry, filmed against smoke and blue lighting for atmosphere. Los Angeles/present day. Designed to contrast mundane reality, malls, freeways, suburban homes, with intruding futuristic violence. The Galleria Mall shootout was staged in a real mall, with lighting and layout designed to heighten tension. Freeway chase, filmed practically, with a real semi-truck barreling off an overpass, and the canal chase shot in the LA River Basin. Cyberdyne systems. Corporate modern interiors with glass, steel, and sterile labs, symbolic of cold, unchecked technological progress. Performing Arts 3. Character and costume design. T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Leather jacket, boots, motorcycle gear, iconic and designed for a mix of menace and heroism. Makeup progression showed wear, torn synthetic skin, and exposed endoskeleton. Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton. Reinvented as a hardened soldier, dressed in fatigues, tactical gear, and sunglasses. John Connor, Edward Furlong. Youthful, rebellious look, camouflage jacket, dirt bike, representing the every teen. T-1000, Robert Patrick. Police uniform for much of the film, deliberately ordinary and inconspicuous. His design relied on performance minimalism, with the uniform serving as a blank canvas for transformation. Laptop computer 4. Special and visual effects. T-1000, groundbreaking CGI. Created by Industrial Light and Magic, ILM. The liquid metal morphing effects use CGI to depict melting, reshaping, and reforming. Built on tech pioneered in the Abyss, 1989 pseudopod sequence. Over 40 digital shots, revolutionary for 1991. Practical effects. Stan Winston Studio built life-sized T-800 endoskeletons, puppets, and animatronics. Miniatures used for truck crashes, helicopter stunts, and explosions. The shotgun blast to the T-1000 used practical mercury-filled squibs and prosthetics for transitions before CGI morphing. Stunts. Nearly all vehicle crashes and explosions were performed practically. The motorcycle jump sequence with Schwarzenegger was filmed with wire rigs and stunt doubles, later composited for safety. Artist Palette 5. Cinematography and visual style. Shot in Super 35 format, giving flexibility for widescreen compositions. Blue and steel tones dominated night sequences, future war, steel mill, while desert and daytime scenes used warmer, sun-bleached palettes. Industrial, metallic environments contrasted with suburban life, reinforcing the collision of futures. Musical notes 6. Music and sound design. Composer, Brad Fiedel. Reprised and expanded the original's industrial synth score. The main theme emphasized metallic percussion and pounding rhythms to reflect the machine-driven story. Sound design included hydraulic noises, metallic crashes, and synthesized layering to make the T-1000's transformations feel visceral. Trophy 7. Legacy of Production and Design. Awards. Won 4 Academy Awards, Best Visual Effects, Sound Editing, Makeup. Influence. Set a new standard for blending CGI with practical effects. Cultural impact. The design of the T-1000 remains one of the most iconic uses of digital effects. Enduring look. The film's gritty industrial environments, combined with mythic character costuming, leather-clad T-800, militant Sarah, helped cement its legendary status.
The unknown future rolls towards us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. These are my personal insights and interpretations of Terminator 2, including favorite moments, themes, and characters. So obviously, I want to just jump right into this one, right? No have no preface, no introduction, nothing, right? So the very first scenes that we see is while the music is playing, the intro music is playing, we're seeing kids playing, right? And we're seeing busy streets. So it's in busy streets, and then it switches to kids playing, and we can see that it's gonna end because there's this slow motion transference into the future war of 2029, where everything is decimated. We see a human skeleton sitting in a busted up vehicle, right? And for a moment, you're wondering where is the war going, right? And how it is going, because you don't see anything. And then you see the camera slowly pans across until it reaches to a couple skeleton remains, mostly skulls. And then we see a Terminator's foot steps on it and crushes it. And then we just start see everything start blow up and stuff, and we can see that the humans and the machines are fighting diligently. Terminators, them are, bust up shot and thing. Then we see a slow crawl where, it's John Connor, right? Older John Connor walking through the barracks or the trenches, basically, and using his binoculars to oversee all that is going on. And you can see that he has a scar on his face, right? So there is a lot of continuity that is being melded, right there off the bat, right? As we had started the discussion so long ago with Terminator, I just had to just go right into it, no preface or anything, right? You can call that my preface that I just gave you, right? Just that sight of the kids in the park was enough to just make me just say, whoa, and then the change, that transition just took me out of it, right? Yeah. And then soon after that, we get the official title rolling in. And then, of course, we see the arrival of the Terminator coming in, right? Of course, the T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger, it arrives first from the future, and they're always naked, right? He enters biker bar, right? Going to one bar, and funny enough, he doesn't kill the humans, right? Him beat them up badly, though, bruise them and thing, right? And him take clothes and boots, right? Take the man motorcycle, the man affair, the part where the bad affair say, here, after him done broke up him fingers them and mash him dog, and him take it now and thing and him go outside now, go up on the motorcycle, ready for move off, and my man come and say, I can't allow you to take the man's wheels, son. Man turn around to him like he must say, who we are talk to? And he just take time approach him, cause he not say a word, And Schwarzenegger just, anybody who, would see the man at that time would be, afraid. You know what I'm saying? Very, very afraid because you see the man that's take time, a slow walk in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Towards you, and you know what am I gonna do if I'm gonna punch out your lights or what am I gonna do? And he could have done nothing, even him have the gun and him basically a shake. But the Terminator, they just want the gun. You know what I'm saying? And him take it and thing and him all take him on glasses. And that's a signature move, of the Terminator to take the glasses, put it on, Yeah, man. And that was it for me, right? That was it for me. Then we see where the T-1000 arrives, right? So it's a lot different, obviously, because a cop arrives at a scene, something must catch him eye and him come, and when him look, him see a hole in a fence, a circular hole in a fence, and you can see the burn that really look like it's still hot because it's flaming red. And he's like, I'm gonna check this out, by myself and thing, and probably with no awareness of his surroundings because the T-1000 sneaks up on him and, we see it almost like it punches him in the gut. At that time, we just think I just punch him really hard for him to fall. But after we see him use that technique where use him hand as the Terminator, the T-1000, use him hand like a spear, I'm pretty sure he stabbed him. Yeah. I mean, the angle never really tell me much at the initial stage, but yeah, definitely can see I stab him. Yeah. Him then take the patrol car, right? You can see that he's in uniform. Initially, without knowing much about the T-1000, again, you would think that, him probably just take his clothes, just like with the other Terminator, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator do him take the people them clothes. So you see, it's a patrol run and thing, and then later on you get to realize that no, it's not the clothes it take, it actually take him farm, right? In a way, right? It take the clothes farm, right? It already have its own humanoid form, right? And we'll get into that part because there's something I need to talk about there, right? Anyways, we see where it was looking for John Connor, right, in the police database, and essentially finds some information. Now, we are then thrown to John home, right, where him foster parents that they're hunting, and Janelle and Todd, that is. Janelle come out there and she's like, John, me I call you from when me I call you and thing, and answer. And I know what John not even look on her, thing, and in bridging there beside him, like, what, so I was like, bro, sister Sha call you, could I even say, yo, I think he just shake it off, Then we see that John is very adept at hacking, right? Him hack ATM and, and thing, and him ride dirt bike, him almost like a rebel, him have this kind of survivalist mentality, which we can infer that it is because of his mother, right, Sarah Connor, which is why he, would be able to do these things, right? And so the question comes at this point, where is Sarah? Sarah doesn't seem to be around. What is her situation? Right? So Sarah has been in a mental institution, right, for quite a while because she decided that she would bomb a computer factory, right? Even John is like, yo, my mother mad, because what she did really, I think, for to do that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's the one that really told the audience, us, that is the situation, right? And then we get for CR there, and we meet up on Dr. Silberman, who, comes back again, and he's basically handling her care and stuff. And you can see that the two of them, that's Sarah and Silberman, have a history because, when him come to the door and he's like, how are you today, Sarah? And she's like, I'm fine, Dr. Silverman. That very sarcastic tone. That's like, how is the leg? And then if I tell the medical students, like, the other day I came there and she stabbed me in my leg and thing, Yeah. One of the things about the whole mental institution that I have to point out that, we have come a far way as a species, right? Because back then, in those days, mental institutions were places where you just put people, you imprison them, and you pump them in with sedatives, and you didn't care really about reforming or even listening to people and whatever. It was just more of just the same, right? But, and on top of that, right? That's bad enough. But on top of that, we have people who are working in this mental institution who are supposed to be caring for these people. Call them a people same way, Not because them not, operating like what you'd expect, right? And even, psychologists would tell you that most persons, they do suffer from one type of mental illness or another, and it's not like say you can tell outright say this and one is that and that. It's just like with autism and what some people have to say about autism. It's on a spectrum. It's a wide range of different things, and we still are discovering, right? And I say we, I mean like scientists are doing it, right? Because I'm not even doing much of that, right? But we're still discovering and uncovering things about human beings, right? And these things are what makes us a little bit more aware of what we need to do, how we need to address certain issues, how we need to medicate, what vaccines to give to people, right? We don't just prescribe things just because we feel like whatever, right? It might have been the time before that would have been the case, but as things advance, as we are getting to better data and being able to do the different tests and follow up these different studies that we do on people, we get to understand more. And so that's how we're able to have certain information, right? And so when someone says trust the science, we're not saying you should just trust anybody who says they're speaking science. We're saying trust the data, trust the results, trust the statistics, because those are what painstakingly people have been working on, right? There are people who that is what their job is, to do the studies, to control the all of the different variables they need to put in order to build out these stuff so that we can have information we can use. Yeah. Sorry for the tangent, but I feel like I have to explain this. And, because people are still making that same mistake of believing in untrue things based on what one person say and not necessarily on what the data has to show and what the science is actually saying, right? Which nowadays it's very easy to find the information. You just have to know where to look, and you just have to just take your time and look at it, right? It's not just what you think and what you feel. If you say, well, it's easier. The easier answer is, oh, we can just solve it doing this. No, right? So, yes, back to Terminator 2 and the fact that we are now in a better place where we don't have orderlies who will take advantage of the persons who are in their care, which is what was happening to Sarah, and she had to plot her escape. She actually used it to an advantage, right? Because she realized that the man that could come up on her, right, and do stuff, and so yeah, she used that as a way to plot her escape, right? Cyberman would have come back to her at some point and thing, and talking to her and thing, and he's like, yo, the way how I feel and I feel. And that's another thing. He's like, I feel, instead of looking at the data. What is it saying? Is this what it is? Right? Yeah. There's a massive cover up that has gone, because she even mentioned that somebody should have found the evidence of what she's talking about, but somebody covered it up, right? And nobody, I'm assuming nobody did any investigation. Them just sum it up to, oh, woman mad, woman talk too much, do something for shut her up, and that is the end of story, right? Yeah, that's just sad though, real sad. So yeah, the T1000 track down John. John is at a mall, right? At one of them mall, and him a play a game in our arcade. And him bridging there with him and thing. And the T1000 come and ask question from everybody and thing, And it finds out that John is in the arcade and where he is, and it's coming for him now. The friend, being a good friend, the friend was like, just try to cut the back and I'll just be here and thing, The friend tried to stop the T1000, but the T1000 was like, hey, no, I don't see John already. You can't fool me. Push him out of the way. All right. Now, the T800 is close by, right? Because we see him going into the mall as well. And it has a very oversized package, which has roses on the top. So, you can see roses on the top and thing and whatever, And then John find himself a situation where he's running through the back of the mall apparently, and the T800 reach him in good time, right before the T1000 can, and a gunfight ensues, right? When the roses them drop, say things like go pop off, and the way how John look is like him thinks boy, the T800 ready for kill a bit, but really and truly, the T800 anticipate the attack from the T1000 because it was basically, sent there to track it, the 1000 because no, so the 1000 I go off of John, so it makes sense to us, stay in proximity. Then there is a high speed chase on a motorcycle, right? Because John run out and, go on a motorcycle and thing. The T800 is on the motorcycle and thing, and T1000 end up in a semi truck, right? I tell you, it get real. And down on the road, them a go and thing, right? The T1000 in hot pursuit. Now, John Fee say, boy, him can duck out in the gully, right? We from Jamaica, we know what gully look like, gully day na, day na gully a ride. And the T1000 take his semi truck and launch off of the bridge over in that gully, right? The T1000 never stop, It was coming for him. Like, it definitely come for him. Like, yo, I was afraid for your character in a show like that. You see me? I said that's what I remember. Right? Cause I look at you know what I'm saying? I'm probably around my age at the time, 1990s. Yeah. Around that time, So the T800 make a good break because it realized, say, boy, you can catch up to John and things. So catch up to John in time, right in time for it to be able to, do some damage to the T1000 in a thing there. But, you think, say, boy, that explosion and fire would have kill it like the previous Terminator where them did send. But no, the T1000 came out of the fire. It looked like liquid metal, and that's when you realize it's liquid metal. And you know what I'm saying? That it can survive that kind of brutal damage. Yeah? So them able to ditch the T1000 and thing, and John get to realize, say, boy, the T800 will listen to him, right? Because him tell it, say, where you carry me, it's like, him come to him sense now, because, even after all of this, it's like, where you carry me, really? Because, you see me, I say, me don't know you, you know what I'm saying? And thing, and it stop, let him off and thing, and him, he realize, say, well, listen to whatever I'm saying, and its mission is to protect John, after he find out and thing. And find out, so the T1000 is advanced prototype where they send to kill John, right? Now, little after that now, John, say more for go home and thing because, him have some stuff and thing and say, T800 anticipates a boy. The T1000 already been to your home, your first appearance, them, is me I said no longer. Anyways, in call, and when in call, this moment was one of the most brutal moments, yeah? And it was a blink and you miss it, because I think I missed it in the first time that I watched it, but afterwards, I was looking out for it. The T1000 was in the form of the foster mother, right? And was talking to John like, thing there, and then, John I tell, I relay what him I hear from what him think is his foster mother to the T-800. And the T-800 say, let me talk. So the T-800 mimic John voice and thing. And the T-1000 ask one question to find out if I really, say, he asks John, what's the dog's name? Got a dog that they are bark and thing. It's like, the dog named Max. T-800 asks, what's wrong with Wolfie? The 1000 say, Wolfie is fine. It's like, Wolfie is just Wolfie. So say Wolfie dead, right? In all of that exchange, that kind of showed that, they were trying to show how much the T-1000 was plotting, right? And very devious, right? It had killed the father, the foster father, and the mother probably would have died earlier. And then it later kills the dog after it realized, say, the dog, not near Wolfie, the dog named Max. And you know what I'm saying? That's how the T-800 know. So when John realized, say, a real thing this now, say, this a thing ya come for kill, you know what I'm saying? Him say, no man, my mother there in a hospital, we need to go get her out. The T-800 said, no way. My job is to protect you. My mission is to protect you. Him say, well, you have to go listen to me. I have to say, cause me I go for go. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to go there with me, right? So of course it had no other options because it had to follow his orders. On top of it, that is what it is. So then go figure, then go on their way and thing. And on their way, right before and reach the facility, John laid the ground rules down on the T-800. Say, you cannot kill them, right? Because John say, oh, trigger happy, the T-800 is at this point, it's like, you can't kill them, right? You won't kill them, right? It's like, promise. It's like, pinky swear kind of thing. And T-800 agrees. So they reach there now and thing. Of course, the T-1000 was ahead of them, right? The T-800 reach the facility, go in, kill one guard, take the farm out of the guard, and go through the facility looking for Sarah. Now, when John and T-800 reach and thing, them go in, Sarah was already on her way out. Because my lady, as I told her, she had planned. She broke out herself, right? She broke herself out herself. She found a way to take some Dr. Silberman as hostage. And she start, to move with him out and thing or whatever. But, Liquor Ring playing her plan and she was caught up, right? When she saw the T-800, because of course the T-800, the model looks similar to the previous Terminator that would have come at her in the first movie, right? And so my lady started to panic. I mean, she lost it. She was not. She started to scramble, And then our son have to come and say, Mom, I try to snap her out of it, right? And convince her, say, it's a different Terminator, this, okay, it's not the same one, it's a different one, this, the one in there for protect me and thing or whatever, right? The T-1000, phase through, and that is the famous scene that many see online many a times about the T-1000. You see it phasing through the bars, right? And then that little funny moment where it phased through all the way except for the gun could have come through, see where you have a 30 hand to pull the gun through the bars, Yeah, that was a little bit of funny, it's like just change the mood of the thing there at that point. So Sarah is able to get away, and thing with the T100, the the T800, and them lose the T1000 and thing, right? They head out to this place, this like some abandoned gas station place, I guess. And when they're there, John basically asks the T800, how him can help it for, be a better thing there, and say, probably it can reset my trip because how Skynet designed the Terminators is that they come off the assembly line, give them what they need in terms of programming and stuff, that initial programming that is written, and then set them to read only, right? Which means that they basically can't learn anything new other than them just know so them need to kill humans and kill all humans and just, move on and stuff. So if this T800 can be reset, it can be able to learn human behavior more and, become more human-like, instead of all, hasta la vista, baby, all of them thing there, We'll be right back after these messages. The future's not set. There's no fate but what we make it. And right now, this podcast is fighting to stay alive. No monetization, no shiny corporate backers. Just a lone signal cutting through the noise like a shotgun blast in the dark. If you're listening, you're part of the resistance. Share it with someone who's ready to fight the good fight. Leave a comment so I know Skynet hasn't got you yet. Every listen, every follow, every share is one more round in the magazine. The judgment day of sci-fi podcast is here. Come with me if you want to binge. So this allows John and the T800 to bond a little bit more. They end up going to the desert where she meets up with her friend Enrique, and that's Sarah. And they basically seem to be, buddies in arms because I should come there and thing, you know what I'm saying? And then she says Sarah is like, guns lowered and everything, and they're like, you can say it's a gun nut cult, kind of thing going on, gang, and she come for a weapons cache because it seems as if she had planned ahead in such a way that she have weapons cache, right? And we do see the weapons cache because she puts them on weapons detail. And I say them, that's the T800 and the John, right? Remember I said a little picking is still little. I'm talking about a little boy, all right? If you haven't watched the movie, you know what I'm saying? But the T800 they're there basically, for help him and thing, lift up some heavy stuff on him, something there, and keep him out of danger, right? And Sarah looks on, as she looks on, we can hear her narrating, right? That voiceover, of all of the father's figures that she has brought around. This one seems to be the one that, would never fail John because it would never give up. Its mission was John, right? And to keep him safe, basically, right? And so that was the thing, right? And of course, they could have stayed in the desert, out there in the desert and thing, but while they were driving before, Sarah was asking the T800 some question, and the T800 go drop knowledge upon her about the fact say there was this one man who started it all, right? By building a chip that could do the things that the Terminators would later be able to use, right, as the springboard, So Miles Dyson, right? So she was probably while she was there thinking up ways of which she can think there, because she then has a nightmare, right? Where it's similar to the opening where we see the kids in the playground, but this time she is walking up to the fence, looking in, and she wants to scream at the kids, because nuclear fire erupt and everybody get burned, even she get burned in the dream, And she wake up. No, she determined because, of course, she have to stop this. She can't make it become a reality, right? Like anybody else would believe, right? That if you got a premonition about the future, right, and you see certain things are go a certain way, you're gonna want to stop certain things from happening in the future. So with that, Sarah made up her mind. She was going to go after Miles Dyson by herself, right? Now, Miles, black guy and thing, and he seems to be a software engineer, because I can see that, right? It's second nature to me as a software engineer, by the way, right? To know when you see a fellow software engineer, and then back in the days, the CRT monitor tells you, and basically that work on something revolutionary, right? The man uh, having wife come to him, say to him, say, then what time you gonna have for we, sir? Because you did a work on program all day and your kids them not even see you. And at the same time, as she said that the kids them appear and thing, and you know, and she had tried to convince him and stuff, and he's like, me just depend the, you know, I know what it is like when you get down into the work, yeah, get down into the program, and you say, yeah, man, you're depend the edge, But we all know that it not gonna solve within 5 minutes. It's gonna take a little bit more time, especially when you want to do it good, right? And you want to get all of the little edge cases and all of those things out of it, right? But you convince yourself more time, say, you can do it in another 5 minutes. And so you come to that conclusion every time, like, yeah, at the edge, me almost done. Me can't stop right now, because if I stop right now, me gonna lose my chain of thought, me gonna lose how, me gonna lose that momentum, basically, right? Yeah. I had to drop that in there because I tell you, many persons don't understand, say when you get to that point, you know what I'm saying? You just want to get it. You just want to get at it. You just want to get to that goal. You're just tunnel vision, right? And you're not seeing anything else. Anyway, she's able to snap him out of it, right? His kids come in and thing, and man thing there, right? So let me just go back a little bit. Let's go back a few scenes before. Go back to when the T-800 pulled up to the mental facility, right, where Sarah was. Because this part I just remembered. So remember when I told you that John had that little talk with the T-800, don't kill, you know what I'm saying? It took it literally, right? So the poor security guard, right, had him duty, and the Terminator decides, say, he's gonna shoot him in them legs, right? Forcing him to live out his life in a wheelchair or disability. Can you believe that? Mm-mm-mm. What a thing. What a thing. Anyways, back to where I was. So, Miles Dyson, right? As I said, he's the one who's heading up the development of Skynet. And so Sarah, she decides she's going to plan an assassination attempt on his life. She arrives at his home with the intention to kill him, right? She hesitates for a while because she have him in her sights, for a good little while. And it's only because his son distracted him with a toy that him bend down, and as she fires, right, she decides to fire now, and it hits the computers, right, and she clip out the whole of the computer them, right, and him stuff and whatever. My guy realizing say him under attack, him start to move and thing, and she moving close and come in and thing, and she shot him in the back, right, and she's over him, but in the time that she took all of that, I guess the T-800 and John, them arrive at the house. And when them arrive at the house now, them, stop her and thing, from carrying out what she would have carried out. So John, he takes the son of Miles and him tell the Terminator, say, for sure him and the wife, the Terminator take one knife and splice his arm, peeling off the skin to reveal the skeleton, the endoskeleton, right? Now, of course, that is very graphic, and I understand why they took the son out of the room, right? That was very, very graphic. Yeah. Even though, it's a machine, right? Just to see it cutting into what is supposed to be a material that resembles human limbs, Yeah. So the T-800 that they talk to them and I tell them, and you can hear over here while while the narration is going, that's basically explaining that, all of that. And when all of that get explained to Miles, of course, what the man for do? You know what I'm saying? The man quickly change his mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm life work still, and we're really passionate about it, but it no stack up to the amount of harm that it's going to cause down the line. Yeah? So I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I lose the taste of it now, which I think was a great little foreshadowing as well, because, later on down, something radical happens, right? So they decide that the best thing to do, because destroying his computers at home didn't destroy the project, right? Because the computers are cyberdyne and files and equipment are there, including the evidence that Sarah Connor could have used to exonerate her so she never have to go no psychotic mental institution, and I say psychotic mental institution because it was a psychotic mental institution. Anyways, not going back there, right? And she didn't want to go back there, right? So Dyson, of course, helps them to get into the labs. Now, that was a very funny moment, right? So Dyson walks up into the lobby, and the security guard is like, looking at him, right? The security guard not make much talk, If does Dyson's like, I'm gonna be taking these guys upstairs and show them around the office and stuff. And the security guy's like, yeah, right. What, what I'm saying? What y'all up to? So when they realized the security guard now budge, of course, they took him and they, tied him up and put him in the bathroom, right? They headed up into the building and stuff, and Dyson got in to some parts, but when him reached to a particular section, the other security guard that's on duty, he came around looking for him bridging, and he's like, you know, I can't believe they gone a bathroom again, my youth. He realized other guy got a bathroom because he wanted to, he was sent there, right? The man see bad things, say, hurry up and him touch the silent alarm and thing. So that also triggered the lockdown process. So Miles get locked out basically, right? So you might try to use him ident card and that wouldn't work, right? Of course, this is a good opportunity for someone who's a hacker, right? And who do we know is a hacker? John, of course, John Connor. So John Connor buckled him in hacking supplies. He's like, I'll hack into this. You guys go do what you need to do at the other place, right? So then go to the other section of the office and thing. The Terminator blow open one door, and thing. Halon gas starts to seep out and things. So of course they can't go in there. So him go in, him grab 2 gas masks and him carry come get Sarah and Miles, right? And they're able to work, right? Through the gas and stuff, right? The Terminator start hack away. I mean, that we had that, moment where you said the Terminator hack away at a machine, right? Which, was another like on point moment for me. And then Miles is like him see, Miles basically have one hand, because him get shot in the back near to one of the hand them, so one of the hand them kind of lame, right? And he's like, yeah, can I get that for a moment? Because he wanted to be the one to destroy a particular piece of equipment, one that probably brought him joy in the beginning, but now him hate it. Him hate the fact that, him have to destroy it now, right? Him have to destroy it now because he hate it, right? So he hacks into it real good, mash it up. Of course, police then arrives, of course, and them start to surround the building, SWAT and everybody and thing, and them have little time, so them have to hurry up, put the remainder of the stuff them together, destroying those stuff. But then, it's time now to just blow the whole popsicle stand. So on retreating now from that location, the SWAT team fatally shot Dyson now, right? As I said, it's a foreshadowing of the fact that he was shot. He has come full circle because you can see where him character basically was driven to do this thing right in the beginning, from that moment. And then now you can see that he is determined to carry out this mission now that he has been given to destroy it. Right? So I'm not afraid. I know he's going to destroy it. Yeah. Dyson send them, that's Sarah, and the Terminator away and say, I'm gonna go on, because I'm not gonna make it, right? And you realize they not make it. Now, SWAT are closing even more and thing, and they find them way in, right? Oh, I forgot to mention. So, again, the Terminator of doing his thing, not causing any fatalities. Him, take up one of them Gatling gun there, you know what I'm saying? And him deal with the cars, them and everything. So, make some explosions to scare away the humans, them, the police officers, them away from the scene, right? So them back off and thing. But that only, bought them a little bit of time, right? And then now, as I mentioned, SWAT was able to get into the building now, and so John and Sarah got caught because tear gas, them fire 18 and thing. And so the Terminator was like, I'll be back. When the Terminator got down, I think he did the same thing again. He didn't fatally wound anybody. He wound them, right? Shoot some man in the leg and thing. shoot one of the guys, them another one got shot with one of the tear gas canisters, right? Because they use the tear gas propelling gun, and then lick him in the back. And that must be hot, you know what I'm saying? And you know, he went outside, grabbed the SWAT vehicle, and barraged it through the front door and thing, right up to the hall and thing. Grabbed the Sarah and our son, and them jump in the vehicle and push off, right? Now, of course, the T-1000 arrives on the scene, right? And he takes a helicopter, right, from one of the police. Then, you know what I'm saying? I found it a little bit weird that it has been killing all its victims, and in this point in time, it decided not to. I guess it never want to have to lift up the man out of the helicopter. It felt like the best thing was to just convince him to get out. They did harm him in that way, right? But probably him get harmed because he jumped from a helicopter and the helicopter was in the air, right? Yeah. So, of course, there is a high-speed pursuit, helicopter, and the SWAT vehicle and thing. Sarah does her best to protect John because, the T-1000 had good sights, and it could just take him out of the vehicle, you know what I'm saying, and thing. It won Sarah, and, the T-800 have a turn over a vehicle, right? And basically have to just say, what, it don't make no sense for move on, because if may allow the T-1000 going to kill both Sarah and John right now. So after reacquiring another vehicle, I'd be like, taking it off of somebody who was on the highway, right? It's actually the vehicle we can get is one of them old farmer kind of truck, and it's not designed to go above a certain speed. The T-1000 acquired after a helicopter, crash. He acquired one big rig, right? And it's carrying liquid nitrogen, right? And for us who doesn't know, liquid nitrogen is something that can freeze stuff, right? It can freeze stuff very fast because the fact that nitrogen is a gas and if it's stored at a certain temperature, right? Like well below, right? It acts like a rapid freezing agent, right? Like antifreeze. So basically, after the truck and the vehicle, the van pursuit and thing, there's a crash, and that liquid nitrogen comes in handy because it freezes the T-1000, right? And the T-1000 seemed to be done because the T-800 shoots him with a shotgun and it shatters, the T-1000 into a million pieces. But unfortunately, where they crash, them crashing in our steel mill, and the steel mill, of course, has heats with temperature above a certain amount, right? So what that mean? It can melt anything, right? And so when them dead here, and I don't know why them just stand around the whole time. Obviously, the Terminator T-800 figured more or less say he could have come back, but we not try and see where he could have done to damage it. But I mean, like seriously, you know what I'm saying? Just watching it, come back together, reassemble, and then come after them, right? So they push into the steel mill while everybody run out of steel mill a long time, push on into the steel mill and thing, and the T-800 and the T-1000 go at it. Of course, the T-800 suffer some serious blows, that damage it. One of which was its arm being torn off, and he had to tear it off because it could no longer function because they stuck in one of the gears them, right? And then the T1000 stab it through its power supply and basically shut it down for a good little while and came after John and Sarah. It holds Sarah and tells Sarah, say, "Oh, you need to call John. Call to John now." Right? Sarah was like, "No way, Jose. I'm not gonna make you kill my son. No way." So T1000 decides saying going to go after John a different way. It decided to call him now, right? And because it can transform, so it transform. But maybe something happened to the T1000 after it went through that process of quick freeze and quick heating. And so its physiology, because it can change forms, right? It can look like different things, and anything it touches, it can become. It ended up every time it walked on the steel surface, the graters, the feet are so it started to transform, right? So it looking like Sarah Connor, but then you can see the feet, right? And that's what defeated, right? The Terminator, and because John saw that and he's like, "Yeah, that's not my mother. You're not my mother." But then the mother show up behind and thing, and with a shotgun, and it, start bust shot into the T1000, right? And the T1000 get shot up for a good while, so till she lose, she didn't have many more animation. The animation run out, right? In time. Isn't that timely? It run out in just enough time for the T1000 to come back fully, right? Because every time she shoot it, it kind of break it up a little bit and thing. However, luckily, the T800 is there, and T800 came for the T1000, right? Bust one hell of a gun. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a hell of a gun it did have, and it bust it right open. And the T1000 couldn't manage because it was at the edge near to one of the steel cauldrons, right? And it fell right over into the steel cauldron, and it melted totally down, right? And as it was melting, you could see it going through different transformations, showing what it was. It was Janelle at one point. It was the guard, Yeah, so it goes to all of those until, it just was no more. So, of course, they were like, that's it for that now, because we have been destroying all of these things. So we need to destroy the chip that we had, because they took the chip and the mechanical arm from the first Terminator. They chucked that into the molten steel, and then the Terminator, the T800, looked at them and said, "Only one chip remains in here," pointing to its head. And of course, Johnny was like, "No, no, no, there's got to be another way. No, 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 no. After me and you stop bun like this, you're not going nowhere," right? But, they knew, right, that it had to be done, right? The T800, of course, says, "I can't self-terminate, so you have to go help me, right? I'm going to put myself on the steel chain, and then, Sarah, you must lower me down into it." Yeah. So she does it, but you can see that she didn't really want to, right? But she knew she had to, right? You can be tugged in two directions at the same time, right? And Jana beg her not to do it. Jana beg him not to go, you know, very emotional, farewell, right? Over a machine, right? I tell you. There's only 2 times I've ever cried about a machine, you know. Yeah. At one time when I was in high school, yeah. There was this one time I was in high school, and there was another time when I was doing some stuff and I dropped my machine and, you know, it never had work for a good little while. I be like, you know, yeah. And I was like, what am I gonna do? Because, you know, I don't have no money. Yeah. But it could have been worse. Anyways, in the final scene of the film, we see a very old Sarah Connor, and she's reflecting and she's talking about, oh, John Dana is Senate. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Some stuff happened, right? And one of the things that she commented was that if a machine can learn to value human life, maybe we can. That's it for my analysis and interpretations. Here are some theories about unresolved mysteries and plot points. So I have 2 questions, right? Just 2 questions. I mean, we know that this is a saga and it doesn't end with Terminator 2. There is Terminator 3, and there are some other spin-off stories and, you know, other, you know, interpretations that are done. Anyways, was the psychologist aware of the cover-up of the Terminator? And I think the simplest answer to that question is that no, I don't think he was. I think he genuinely believed that Sarah was either making up stuff or she was insane. And part of it is because he also believed that he might be seeing things as well, right? And there are some little hints, some subtle little things that we can see about the man himself, the way how he dresses, the way how he talks. He doesn't talk as someone who has an agenda, right? So that's how I know he's not really thinking about whether or how he's gonna fool Sarah, right? He's talking as a man who is genuinely trying to figure stuff out. Where is the T1000 software located? This is a question for persons who are in technology as well, right? We know that at least, right, we have the understanding that there must be some compartment, some housing, something. What we don't see with the T1000 is we don't see much, right? We don't see mechanical parts. We don't see, could it be nano stuff, right? It could be, you know, right? It's hinted at the fact that, you know, it moves in that liquid, you know, way, right? It's fluid, right? It could be nano, and because it's so nano, that's why it was able to be melted down, right? And thing. But at the same time, it brings up that whole idea of what is causing it to work as a unit, right? Because it must have some way to link together, some way to, you know, coalesce. How does it do that, right? What causes it to have those signals, right? Is it that the heat would have activated those nanocells, right? That would be able to recognize that it needs to assemble, and then it puts itself together, right? And then perhaps because it was damaged, right, because of the excess heat or the excessive cooling that it went through, that's what caused it to malfunction. All the different things you can think of in terms of how this could work, right? Because obviously the software, I could think that, hey, the software could be in the cloud, right? And then the hardware is what we're looking at. But the fact that, you know, the T1000 is from the future, there is no cloud at that time, right? Or at least a traditional understanding of how connections and networks work, right? So there must be some allowances for that, right? It's a movie after all, and so, you know, I'm gonna give it a little bit of pass because of that explanation of the nanotech. So the possibility of multiple timelines, right? Because the film, it portrays time travel, right? Paradoxes, right? The fact that we're at Terminator 2 and we see that the Terminator has returned, right? A Terminator has returned to save John, as well as a Terminator has returned to fight and kill, right? So obviously there has been some change in the future which allowed for that, because the only way you can assure of anything being done in the past is if something, was altered. Obviously, perhaps there might have been a timeline where John was fatally injured, right? It could have been a timeline where Sarah was injured. So it could have been those cases where, the resistance decided that this was something that they needed to do, or Skynet might have been monitoring what was happening and being like, this is happening, It makes you think about how, things will happen afterwards, right? We know what the T3 tells us, right, in Terminator 3, but it is very obvious that this would have been just a part of the timeline, right? Where we see John growing up, actually becoming somebody, right? Having that influence to probably, make changes for a future, right? Without AI overreach. Who knows? Now, there's a big, humongous emotional development that occurs with the T800, right? Because it starts to understand human emotions a little bit more. And so, although it says that it cannot self-terminate, it's the one that gives the idea to self-terminate, meaning that it had at least understood at some level that its sacrifice would mean something, right? It going, because it could have said, all right, we're going to stick around because we want to make sure I say, whatever, you grow up, whatever, But it was able to let go, right? And it makes us even question how humanity, how we make certain decisions based on our emotions, right? And whether this is something that AI could in some way understand, right? And I mean understand at a very basic level, right? And I won't say never, because many things we have said in a decade was never, and now it is. So we can't take that for granted, right? And of course, with all of this, the role of fate and free will is a question of whether the future is predetermined or it done set, or it is malleable, right? Can it be changed? Can it be reformed? Because Sarah Connor, she'd have them premonitions, based on her fears and the warnings that she'd get, right? And John, through his hopefulness, right? And action, it basically create that kind of tension there where you have to wonder if it's gonna be choice or is it inevitable, right? Now, the nature of John Connor's first appearance is something that definitely desires some amount of exploration because we only briefly see them on screen and, see them how they interact. So we don't get down into, who these persons are, how influential were they on John being John, how he is, right? And perhaps, in some small way, they might have contributed to him in the future being a leader of the resistance. I know, many persons might say, oh, but him not having mother already, whether train him up and whatever, but we know that, Rome was never built in a day. And as much as how Sarah was training him up, she was very overprotective. She was very overprotective. So that can lead a child to become very dependent and not independent as how, John seemed to be now. So, yeah, that's something that could definitely use some exploration, right? And then finally, the details about Skynet's origin and technology, right? So obviously in this film, Cyberdyne is the one that would have been doing the whole research and development and after them losing all those files and them stuff there, right? What happens, right? What happens? And let's say that it was allowed to go on, suppose they have some backup server somewhere or they have a location where they store the files, backup copies of these files, even replicated a prototype from the ARM, it would still bring about Judgment Day in that way because someone would be able to pick it up and continue the work, even if Miles gone, right? As Miles is gone now, someone else will be able to pick that work up and continue on it. Yeah. I guess that is a question about how the AI would rapidly mature, right? So that is something that we can look into a little bit more. And if you have anything to contribute to the conversation as well, remember to share your favorite Terminator 2 moments or theories. Drop them in the comments. In this episode, we looked at Terminator 2 Judgment Day and how the future fights back. And in a simple way, this reflection is about where we stand currently, where we intend to be, because we find ourselves at odds with those who think there is no options out there. There are no chances, that everything must be done now. Everything must change today. But I'm here to tell you that though what you do will impact what will happen, we don't have to rush into things, because when we rush into things, we forget what is important. We skip steps, crucial steps. Remember, in order for us to get to the goal that we all want to be, and I'm hoping that I'm preaching to the converted, or at least to the understanding that we are hopeful that we can get to a world where we don't have to fight against one another, that we are fighting issues, not people. We can take up arms together against tyranny, and that we can build a world where we all can enjoy, where we all can feel comfortable with. Notice I said all, and not some of us, because it's important that we all are happy and we don't dive headfirst into making decisions that really don't make any sense if we just spend 2 minutes to look at it. Continue the good work. Fight the good fight. And continue to uplift your fellow man. These are the things that make the world better. And I hope that this podcast can at least be something more than just air, but something substantial that we can all take on. That is it. And there you have it, another thrilling chapter in our voyage to the universe of sci-fi television. The path ahead leads to 2,000 downloads, and every bit of engagement brings us closer. Follow, comment, and share your thoughts. Until we meet again, keep exploring the unknown. This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.